Welcome back to another episode of the Fuel Your Vision podcast. Our guest today is a sought-after global speaker, sharing the stage with people like Rachel Hollis, John Maxwell, Magic Johnson, and even the legend himself, Les Brown. He has a thriving Facebook community of over 30,000 dedicated members and truly building a cult-like following online. In 2017, he was voted the #1 coach inside of a $200 billion a year industry. And within that industry, he also runs his own masterminds all over the world where he attracts 6- and 7-figure earners. He's built an extremely powerful brand for himself called The Game of Networking. He's written 2, working on 3 best-selling books. He's a very successful investor, an 8-figure entrepreneur, and what I truly would call a visionary. His name is Mr. Rob Sperry. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about how Rob went from a shy kid to massive levels of success, traveling the world with his friends and family. We're also going to be talking about his 3-step formula to achieve virtually anything you want in your life. And lastly, we're going to be talking about the important role that his faith plays inside of not only his life, but also his business. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Let's go ahead and jump right into the interview. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Fuel Your Vision podcast with your host, Alex Lombard. I'm super excited for this episode. We got a good friend of mine, someone I've known for quite a long time now. It's been, four years or so. But Mr. Rob Sperry, you guys heard all of his accolades right before this. Man, I'm stoked to have you on here. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. Yeah, I was wondering where you were going to go when you say quite a long time, because for some people that could be like 10, 15 years. 4 years, it does seem weird to think we didn't know each other at one point, right? When you start hanging out and have we've hung out in Sundance, Utah. We've hung out in Mexico. We've hung out
Lake Powell. Or no, you didn't do that trip. Michigan.
We've hung out Arizona. We've hung out all over, man. We've had some fun all over, right? We
have. So for those, listening
Canada.
in,
Banff.
Oh, right. Yeah, that was a good trip. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, we'll talk about some of these because we've had some good experiences. Man, that's actually crazy. I didn't even think about that. I've probably traveled with you more than a lot of people I've known a lot longer than you. So that's cool. It says a lot. For those that don't know, I've known Rob for quite a while. He came in you brought us in to a new company in the direct selling space a couple years ago, and you were kind of like the head guy, the main mentor for our team, and we bonded through just mutual friends and other business partners, and then you started kind of building your own brand, and I got to help out with that as well, and we launched kind of a separate company as well in that space. So we've done a lot, man. It's been a fun journey, and it's cool to see where you're at today, and I'm excited to jump into some of that because you've accomplished a lot, you've done a lot, and I just respect who you are and what you've done. So that's a little bit about us and in our journey. But one thing I wanted to kind of kick this thing off so that other people can hear it from you, man, is tell us just your story, right? I know it's kind of broad. You've been asked that before, so you're pretty good at it. But what I want to know specifically is start young. I want to hear a little bit about your childhood. I love, I've heard you kind of tell this before, but you talk about who you were as a kid, and, it's just funny because it's not who you are today. And, but it's interesting, and I feel like it's very relatable to people. So kind of take us through that and then bring us to, the current day and kind of some of the key points along the way.
Yeah. Everybody's got a story, right? If we sat down with everyone, we all have limiting beliefs. We all have insecurities. We all have fears. And growing up for me, the way I won was collaboration at a young age. I didn't even know what that word was, but that's the way I won. I think in 5th grade, you don't know this. I don't think I've ever said this on stage, but I won for being the most friendly in the entire school. And so that's just kind of how I won. And part of it is because I was naturally extremely fearful, very shy, but very ambitious, which is kind of sometimes can be a really weird combination or a rare combination, or maybe we just all think that we're rare and special. But for me, that's how I was. So when I was 14 years old, my brother was 12 years old. He was taller than me. My sister was 10 years old. She was taller than me. So you can imagine some of those insecurities and fears. I played baseball, and even as a 12 and 13-year-old, I wouldn't swing the baseball bat. So my dad literally threatened to ground me, I think for a month, if I wouldn't even swing the bat. And I'm like bawling, Dad, I can't swing the baseball bat. Just swing a freaking baseball bat. That's it. Just swing one. I wouldn't go to my friends' houses without my younger brother. That's the key word, younger brother, younger, taller brother. That's how scared I was. And so for me, I would always just be nice to everybody, but I just had all of these fears. Public speaking was by far my greatest fear. In church, it was taboo to say no to the church leader. And the church leader literally asked me 3-4 times as a teenager. At one point, showed up to my house and said, hey, I really feel like you should come speak. And I said to him, you can call me up from the pulpit and I will walk out, which for me was very bold because I was so shy.
Right.
But that's how scared I was. And so at the same time, I was very successful at tennis. I was the #1 tennis player in Utah. I played college tennis. I played semi-professional tennis. I taught tennis. So yeah, I had successes, and that success from tennis really helped my self-esteem and gave me confidence. And it was great because I didn't have to worry about the fear of judgment of anyone else. Because when I played basketball, I was the guy that would just like, was so proud of just always passing, like almost too much of a team player on everything that I did. I tell everybody I'm a recovering people pleaser. And so it's been a process. So I just transitioned that ambition into slowly chipping away at those fears. And I still am overcoming many limiting beliefs and fears. I think we all are over the course of our lives, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, man. No, I think what's interesting about your story and what I want to kind of get at with it is you talk a lot about how when you were younger, you were shy, you brought that up. And what I find fascinating, because I was kind of the opposite, and so for me to hear you say that, and then to see the level of success that you've gotten to in your life and continue to get to, it's fascinating. And so what I want to ask you about that is when it comes to like entrepreneurship, you went from being in the tennis space and prior to that being very shy, like you said, but still having that ambition, but yet you get into this, a segment of entrepreneurship that requires stepping way out of your comfort zone and talking to dozens and dozens and dozens of people. You got into the direct selling space and then you crushed it, and you have obviously a story all within that. But what do you think drove you to, I guess, get into the world of entrepreneurship, especially for two things? So especially because #1, you had that kind of shyness about you, but then #2, because I know that you were doing really well in your tennis career at the time.
Yeah, I think everything comes down to nobody lacks motivation. When people say, I can't find anybody who's motivated, I can tell you that same person is motivated in something. We lack vision. And so for me, even though my fears on a scale 1 to 10 were at a 9, my ambitions, goals, dreams, and vision were a 10. And I was always crystal clear, as crazy as this sounds, from a very young age, probably even as a young teenager, that someday I was going to be the dad and the husband that could be around and could travel the world. And that's kind of just what I had. I think part of it is my dad ingrained that. And so my dad spends so much time with us. 3 hours of tennis every day. No other dad, was doing that. And he traveled all over the country with us for tennis tournaments and spent time with us. So that kind of, for me, was what was defined as success, because he grew up crazy, crazy wealthy. And he said, look, it's what the money provides, which is time. It doesn't, the money itself doesn't matter. It's what it provides. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to make a lot of money so I could have a lot of time. And that was what really resonates. So for me, as I started the tennis club, I realized it's making good money. It's all relative. To some of you, this won't sound like good money. To others, it will sound like a lot. But as a 24-year-old, I was making 6 figures running a tennis club when the average tennis club instructor was 45 or 50. So I'm this 24-year-old thinking I got this dream, but I kept trying to make more money and I couldn't. Its ceiling was capped. There's only so much you can charge for tennis lessons, and there's only so many courts where you can fill them. So then the second part to that was, as I transitioned, I tried to figure out a way to have more time, and I couldn't. I mean, if I left the tennis club, right, I wasn't doing my private tennis lessons. So I'm like, geez, I've reached this ceiling. This isn't a leveraged vehicle. So I was just trying to figure out how to create more leverage. And I started buying every small business magazine, every entrepreneur magazine. I was the wannabe entrepreneur. And I'd go to all these guys that I was running this tennis club, like a couple of guys now. I mean, this one guy sold his company for, I think he sold it for 2 billion. And another guy sold his company for 3 billion. And I'm teaching them their kids tennis. And another guy's company's worth 600 or 700 million. He was known as the #1 spammer in the world at one point. And I know that's not a proud title, but I would go to all their homes and I would pick their brains. Hey, what did you do? How did you make your money? Yeah. And so I'm like law of association. I'm thinking big. And this one guy gives me 18 different books on an iPod. This dates it, right? How long ago it was? It's like 16 years ago. Gives me this iPod. And he says, listen to these. I'm like, I don't read books. Like, I didn't even read books in college. I just found the answers, answered the questions, sifted through, and I was done with the book. He said, these will change your life. So I started listening to books. Over the course of 6 months, I listened to all 18, and I came back to him like, what's next? And this individual, who's now made over $30 million, mentored me for several years. Several years. And then after that, he came to me and just said, hey, I've got something for you that's entrepreneurship. And that's how I got my start really in direct sales almost 12 years ago, was from this individual who I didn't even know what he did. Cause I knew he owned, a lot of real estate, and you know who he is. It's Lon, crazy intense.
Crazy guy.
Crazy, right?
Yeah. He was wild, man.
Crazy intense, but that's, for me. And so for me, it was really just weighing out the fears and the ambitions, right? And it was a battle. I'll tell you, in a lot of days, the fears beat out the ambitions.
Sure.
But the ambitions beat out the fears. But the battles, there were tons of battles that, I just wanted to see what was the least amount possible I could do and find the busy work to do without, reaching out to new people and getting rejected. Like you said, I was trying to do everything I could except for that. And then it hit a head where I just said, look, this isn't going to happen. If I keep trying to take the shortcuts, the shortcut is actually the long route. And once I realized that the long perceived route was actually the shortest route possible, instead of shortcut, back down, shortcut, back down, shortcut, back down, I could have just taken that one path and been fine. Once I finally realized that, it was a lot easier for my ambitions to beat my fears.
That's powerful. I love that. Might be the headline of this. That's a good quote right there. No, that's really cool, man. And one thing too that I want to kind of talk about as well and point out is you're a very, very disciplined person. And I feel like, a lot of times it's just not necessarily the sexiest thing to talk about. So you listen to a lot of these big entrepreneurs, and like they bring it up, they talk about it sometimes, but I feel like I know that a lot of where you're at today is because of that. And you've been doing that for, 12 some years now. So give us a little bit insight on that. You have a very regimen routine that you do. You allow yourself obviously some freedom and some cheat days and things like that, but kind of share, with the audience a little bit about your discipline that you kind of put on yourself. And you can, if it's evolved, you can kind of talk where it started or where it's at now, just whatever you kind of want.
So I created this new formula called the Conqueror's Formula, and I'm changing the name. Sometimes it's Visionary Formula, sometimes it's Success Formula. So we'll see this is the premise of my third book, which I haven't even started writing yet. So it's like distant. But the premise of it starts with, you can't out-discipline a bad vision. So everything I just gave you, begins with the vision. Right? You got to have the vision. If you don't have the vision, if I go to the gym and I'm working out and I've got all this pain, and I don't have vision of I'm going to get shredded or I'm going to feel better or I'm going to whatever, I'm going to quit the gym. If you got this vision that, you're drinking alcohol, maybe you're an alcoholic and you say, I'm going to stop drinking because it's good. That's not strong enough. It's got to be life-changing for you to change. So it begins with the vision. Then I thought it was discipline, which we'll get to, but it actually isn't. The second thing is environment for this formula, because you can't out-discipline a bad environment. I can't have the biggest vision in the world and say, okay, I'm an alcoholic and I want to stop drinking alcohol, And I wake up in the morning with the biggest vision in the world. And all of a sudden next to me, I got 10 bottles of liquor right there, right? I can't do that. That's not going to help me. I can't be the person that wants to lose weight. And I got my, whatever those treats are that are your weakness, and they're surrounded in your pantry, in your kitchen, and next to your bed. So you can't have discipline about environment. So second thing is environment. And that goes with the law of association with environment, both offline and online. Both offline and online. Because we hear the law of association, but it's online and offline. Social media, people got one shot, that's it. If I see anything negative or I see anything that bugs me, shame on them maybe the first time, but every time after that, shame on me. So I unfollow, block, or unfriend. But I don't have time for any of that. So law of association, personal development goes with that, who you're connected with, all that stuff. Third thing, discipline. Discipline isn't to take away from everything you've ever wanted. It's to give you everything you've ever wanted. So it can be known as a bad word, but I look at it as discipline is giving up your likes to gain your loves. And too many people are addicted to their likes and they never gain their loves. They confuse their likes and their loves. And look, I'm not telling you to give up all your likes. Don't think I'm being crazy. We all have our outlets. For me, it's movies. My wife and I see every movie, even if it's just to complain about how bad the movie is, like we're some movie critic or something. So that's my outlet. Your outlet could be music. So for me, it's associating and listing out what are your likes and what are your loves. I love spending time with my family. I love spending time with my friends. I love traveling the world. I love serving others. I love fulfilling with my potential. So today I've been in blitz mode, work all today, and I've loved it because I feel like I'm fulfilling my potential as a person. And the greatest definition of happiness is progress. I'm progressing. There's a reason why most billionaires don't retire. They don't need the money, and everyone can't figure out why.
So true.
Happiness,
so true.
Right? It's like people like, when I make all this money, we retire. No, retirement means you don't have to work. It doesn't mean you don't work. There's a reason why most people still work that have the money and we can't understand that until you start to make it. You think you can, but you can't. I did a semi-retirement thing for a year. It was the worst year of my life. And I always thought it was the dream. That was my dream. And it sucked. So discipline is to give you everything you ever wanted. So for me, in the last almost 12 years, I haven't missed one day of personal development reading. I've only missed one day of reading some sort of spiritual reading. I haven't missed one day of saying some sort of, meditation or spiritual prayers. I don't miss date night when I'm in town with my wife. I do something with my kids every single week. When I go to church, I don't bring my phone. I haven't missed a week of working out. Then I create specific DMO, daily method of operations for the business, right? Main tasks. I set minimum goals of what am I willing to do no matter what when I don't feel like it. Then I set, specific blitz. Sometimes it's blitz week, blitz day, right? Specific sprints. They're called sprints for a reason because you can't do them very long. And so I create those. Sometimes it's sprint. I try to do a sprint hour every single day where it's just all out, like phones off. I'm just laser focused. I list here's today, list my task. It's all of these, but in order of what to do. And I just go. And I get more done in an hour than most people do in 5 hours because I go all out. And I've got 4 kids. I've spoken in 15 plus countries in the last 2 years. I've done 7 family vacations. And I've done 3 vacations without the kids with my wife. So I am heavily invested in my loves, and I've divested. I'm trying to think. Is it divested? Divested. Right? Sometimes you just speak out loud.
Yeah, I think it's a word. We'll just roll with it.
I know it's one of the two. I was just thinking as we go. But I've done that, and given up many. So I don't watch. I used to watch the NFL on Sundays for 8 hours every Sunday. Besides the Super Bowl, I don't think I've watched an entire NFL game. And of course, if I were with friends, I still would for probably 6 years. Now, it's not wrong if you guys do. Music, I have not listened to at the gym for 12 years because I listen to personal development. Again, that may be your outlet. I'm not judging any of you. You got to figure out your outlets. But for me, I started heavily investing in my loves. And the last one, which goes along with discipline, is habits. Show me your habits and I'll show you your future. Show me your habits, I'll show you future. On average, we make 35,000 decisions, and about 40+% of those decisions are actually habits. And so this is the formula to have success in anything. And so for me, I'm going through, before I go to bed, I'm listing out my priorities, and then I prioritize those, like reprioritize, structure them. And in the morning, I look at them again and I write them down again and reprioritize, like I showed you there. And then I try to map out as much as I can in calendars, even if it's lunch break, 20 minutes, right? Or how long do I have? And so everything is just go, 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 go as you do it. And yeah, I still map out like free time. I map out, fun time, map out, I've got kids' tennis, basketball games. I've got, today I've taken, one kid to school. This morning I picked up another kid from school, took another kid to tennis already, right? And so I've done already I got the kids up this morning, got their lunches made this morning, because this is my wife's morning to sleep in, because she wakes up at 5 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to work out. So it's like, yeah, I still am doing the life stuff
Still
as well.
living life,
I am
yeah.
just trying to get it structured to get done what I love getting done, not in a rigid, negative way. And what do I love? And let's get that crap done.
Yeah. I love it. So many value bombs there, man. That was good. So the three things, the formula for success, I loved this. I wrote it down: vision, environment, and then discipline. And then you had a couple things under.
And then habits that go along with discipline would be like kind of fourth or 3B.
Right. Cool. I love it. Yeah, no, that's amazing. It's so detailed, and I think that's cool, because a lot of times, especially like younger entrepreneurs for sure, in which, my audience, there's definitely a lot of them. They get excited about something, but they don't really have a clear plan. They're just excited. We used to say back in the network marketing space, just motivated idiots, and it's like, at the end of the day, like, you can get a little bit of a ways and get some traction with that for sure. But if you want to actually build something long-term, like you've done, in any area of your life, this formula of success isn't just for monetary success. It's for any area of your life. Family, health, all those are important. But if you want to get to the level that you desire, this is the formula. And I love it. And it goes along with, any big guy out there or women out there you hear, talk about it. They say very similar stuff, which makes sense because it works, which is awesome. So one thing I did want to ask, when you were talking, this was interesting. Totally cool if you can't share this, but you said there was one day where you missed the spiritual reading in the 12 years. What was that day?
So weird. Like, it's funny when I say where I was, because people think that's why. Here it is. I was in Vegas, but I don't gamble.
You've been to Vegas a lot.
I've gambled like 3 times in my life, and I know that I have an addictive personality, and I get competitive, and I hate thinking I'm good at something that I don't feel like I have control over. So I just don't even do it. And so I wasn't gambling or anything. I was at a friend's house, and I think it was just like late night talks. And then I just went to bed and forgot. And I woke up in the morning, like, it was over a decade ago. And it was like this panic attack of like, I failed. Like
hit rewind real quick.
Gosh, because I love streaks and minimums and discipline. And it was like, but I think now it adds to the story of, all those things you do, and then, the one time you missed. And the whole point, like I said, happiness is progress. And so it's victims focus on the past, survivors focus on the future, conquerors focus on the present. And so, we learn from the past, we've got a vision for the future, but we need to focus on the present. And we all get too caught up, right, in the shame and the negative guilt. And I know that's a simple one where it's like, no need to, it's a joke on it, but it's more of a learning lesson on everything else that is much bigger and much deeper. Right. Try your best to learn from the past, have a vision for the future, but focus on the present.
Yeah. What's next? What's right in front of you? What can you do now? Yeah, it's good, man. I love that. It's so good. It was funny when you used the NFL too as the example, because that's totally my crux right there. That's my outlet. The NFL is like, games are on, it's like everything turns off. I like have to watch them. It's so funny.
Once I had 4 kids, man, it's like,
yeah, it's a little different position.
Because I work really hard Monday till about Friday at 2. And then I don't do anything the rest of Friday. And then Saturday I'll do maybe an hour. That's it. And Sunday, nothing. And so I've learned to really just invest heavily so I get stuff done. So Sunday is pure just family, which you
Yeah.
could do that with NFL someday, right? Like, so it just became where there weren't enough that were excited
Right.
about it, which is probably my bad. I should have given a bigger vision. So, but it does make it easier. I'll tell you that. I was obsessed with watching every sporting event and everything. And, it's taking so much time, and now it's great.
Yeah.
I try to catch a couple highlights on Twitter, and then close game at the end, watch a couple close games for different sporting events. But I used to watch, like, my NBA team is the Lakers. I grew up in
Uh-huh.
California. So I watch every game. And now it's like, okay, not
There's a
getting
lot of
league
basketball
pass.
games.
I'm only watching the nationally televised games, and I'm trying to watch, only after it's done to DVR and go through sometimes even the highlight version on YouTube TV. So it's like 15 minutes
Right,
or the
right.
end of the game to make it big. So it's always right trying to figure out where you're most productive. And then I figured out productivity hacks. I don't know if you've done this yet, but I started challenging myself. When am I the most productive? Because it's like we kind of know, but I don't, like, notice when we're doing this podcast right now, I don't do very much before 2 o'clock with anyone else anymore. Like, very little at all. No calls, no podcasts, very few interviews, because that's when I'm most productive. And I start slowing down after, but it's really easy to do stuff like this to still have energy. But my creative brain shuts down for my own stuff. So I try to get everything I can done before 2. And then if I have calls or interviews or stuff like that, I'll do them usually 2 to 4. And then after that, I start to shift to more family stuff. And so I started figuring out, when am I the most productive? And during those times, I schedule very little nowadays.
Yeah, that's super interesting, because I find myself being extremely productive as well until about 2 or 3. So it's funny that you say that, because about 2 or 3 is when I start to, like you said, kind of shut down and start focusing on more life things versus like business. But what I'd never thought to do is to move like calls and podcasts and like anything that deals with, outside of my like creative realm, to like those times, and then focus on, the stuff that I'm more passionate about and want to work on during those times. That's I'm going to take that. Actually, I like that a lot, because I
You'll
never would have
get
thought
so
that.
much done. It's just
Yeah.
crazy.
Because then it's like, what happens is, it's like, it's 3:30, 4 o'clock. And it's like, I want to work on, like my podcast or like my brand or whatever, but I'm just kind of mentally just done. I'm like, I just want to go chill and hang out, with the wife, or go see a movie or something. So yeah,
I feel like,
I
for
like
me,
that.
it's like an hour's worth of work is basically I could have done in 15 minutes before 2 p.m.
Yeah.
But after 2 p.m., it's an hour to get 15 minutes done. And that's where my diminishing return comes, where it's busy work to feel like I'm right, like, grinding my face off, where people misinterpret that. And
Yeah.
so for me, it's like, it's counterproductive. And I think there's some new studies that have come out that say after 35 hours, it's very little gets done from 35 to 50 hours as far as work goes.
Mm.
And after 50, it's pretty much nothing. And so people are doing it because they feel guilty, or they feel like they're proclaiming how hard they're working and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I've really taken that to heart, of really trying to focus on not only how much, but when am I the most productive? And then, like, things like logging out of social media, and like, I don't bring my phone to church anymore. Date nights, I don't bring it at all, because I'm not addicted to my phone when it's not there. But when it's there, I'm 100% addicted.
Yeah.
I'm fully addicted. When it's not there, I'm not like, where is it? When it's there, I
Right.
just have it, go, check. So I've fully done that, and that's helped. And that's what I've been studying the most the last 6 months, is how to be more productive.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really good. I love that. I'm going to actually implement that in my, my own life. So thanks for that.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's shift topics here. I want to talk about your masterminds. I want to talk about your brand. I want to definitely give you, a voice there to kind of share a little bit more about them. You have built an awesome brand, the game of networking, the T-Gon Nation, over the last couple of years, 3-4 years now, like really hard the last like 2-3 years. And it's just cool, man, because I remember being on a call with you when you first were like, hey, I'm going to like kind of really go hard at this. And you were just asking me for some basic social media stuff. And to see where it's at today is just amazing. I mean, you've done 4 masterminds now, I think, right? Has it been 4? I've been to 2 of them,
Yeah.
4 masterminds all over the place. You've done Mexico, which I was at, which was amazing. You did Utah and Sundance, and you've done Hawaii and recently. And so, it's awesome. It's really cool to see that. I give a lot of props to you, man, because, being in the brand space, it's not easy to do that. And, to get people to show up and pay money and fly around, that's incredible. So it's awesome. I want to give you a little bit of, floor to speak on it. Give us a little intro on what it is. I kind of talk about it in the intro to this, but, from your perspective, share with people a little bit more about, number one, just the game of networking, what that's all about. And then number 2, the actual specific masterminds where you bring in a lot of very high level people.
Yeah. So the game of networking it's my first book, but it also just became a collaboration. And, that's my greatest strength is I've always collaborated. Remember, I won in 5th grade for being most friendly, and I was just so scared. So I just surrounded myself with people that were great. And so that's what I've done. I've done, 200 interviews in the last 2 years. And so I just figured, you know what, why not bring people together? Why not bring people together? And I spend a third of the time sharing my content. A third of the time I have other guests share their content. And then a third of the time it's really just collaborating on everybody giving their own perspectives and insights. So rather than most events where it's someone talking at you, this is more of a true collaboration of people getting their questions answered. So I have one that's a 6- and 7-figure earner mastermind, which is totally different. I mean, in Maui, that was the first time I separated them. And it was just mind blowing because, you're going through like investment strategies to burnout strategies, to self-care, personal care strategies, to system strategies, to outsourcing strategies. And then the 6-figure breakthrough is for those that haven't made 6 figures, and that every person bawled, like literally. And that wasn't my intent. I had no idea, but every person bawled. And you're going through and you're breaking through beliefs as well as teaching skills, because you need both. And so that was a really great connection. And so, those have been really, really fun and rewarding to help people have those breakthroughs. And then they create lifelong connections as well.
Yeah.
That, I still see these chats that are active and people commenting and supporting each other and, lifelong friends forever. And they help each other out in their own businesses and refer each other. And so that alone makes it worth it, let alone the connecting the mind and the heart, and let alone, learning from everybody just there. But the lifelong connections alone is just worth it. So it's been really fun. It's been really rewarding. I'm going to do 4 in 2020. So I'll do 2 for the 6- and 7-figure earner, and then I'll do 2 for those that haven't made 6 figures. And, just keep shifting, changing locations, and, having fun with those. And so it's evolved. Who knows where it will continue to evolve, but so far it's been a lot of fun. And I think now there's been 100 attendees, about just over that. And out of 100, all 100 have said that they would highly recommend it to their teams in anonymous surveys. So that's pretty cool. And each one keeps improving because we do anonymous surveys, figuring out what people like or don't like, how many breaks, which topics. I take the 20% best topics and use those again, and then improve them, and then new topics, right? And then new like adventures, new things, all this stuff like that you just keep doing and trying to dial it in.
Yeah, that's cool, man. And it says a lot, because I know when the 2 that I was at, there were people that were at the first one that were also at the second one, so it's like, that says a lot right there. Cause again, it's, these are high level masterminds. It's not like people just drive down the road and just show up, there's a lot that goes into it on their end. And so for them to come again, that says a lot. It's pretty powerful right now. The masterminds that you do and run are specifically in the network marketing space. Do you ever see yourself like branching out and making them more broad or hitting other industries?
Yeah. So I just went to this fundraiser where I feel like I did really well this year, but I felt like I was like in the bottom 10% of income earners. I mean, these are guys like making like 20, 30, 40 million. Like the poor ones are making like 15 million a year. And I was just like, okay, this is cool. And I thought about it, and the thought has come to my mind for sure because I love bringing people together. My goal this year, this sounds really crazy, is to say no more. That's my number one goal for 2020, so that I can focus on my top yeses, my top priorities. And I'm going to do that for this next year as I'm laser focused. And then long term, I have highly considered doing those type of masterminds because the vast majority of my friends aren't in network marketing. The vast majority, even the ones that I do small masterminds that we just get together every month, they are not in network marketing. And so we're just talking everything: tax strategy, business strategies, online strategies, different investments, everything. And so I've thought about, taking the same type of layout and bringing people together. So I don't know. Stay tuned. We'll see. It's definitely something that I hope to do and I could see doing, not in 2020, but things happen quick. So you never know, right?
Right. Yeah. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. Definitely keep me updated with that. Awesome, man. So one of the things that I want to chat about too is I remember being at one of the events, I think it was the Utah one, and you drew a diagram, and I actually thought this was really cool, where you kind of laid out your priorities in your life. And the way that you did it was you had God and faith at the bottom as like the foundation. And then you had your wife, and then you had your kids, and then you had your business. And I loved your reasoning for that. And so kind of take us through that, break us down a little bit, why it's like that.
Yeah, I look at it as you're building a castle. And, the things around it are the habits and the discipline. I talked about, like date night, working out to protect the things that are important. But you've got to figure out what's the core, what's going to make everything else better. So for me, and each one of you got to decide what it is for you. A lot of people put you first. For me, I don't put me because I figure if I take care of these things, it takes care of me. So it's the same thing, just a different way of communicating it. So however you want to do that, any of you that are listening, you can do it. So I put God number one, because when I am well with God, I'm the happiest. And I know that the most important person on this earth is my wife, and I have a much better relationship with her. So then after that, as we're building upon this foundation, is my wife. I know that as much as I love my kids, happy wife, happy life. And my wife is the one, she's going to be here. When my kids are all like, they grow out of the house, who am I going to be hanging out with?
Yeah.
So I got my priorities straight. Like, she's the queen. If you don't take care of the queen, the kingdom will fall. So it's like God, wife. Then after that, it's family. Okay. So that's the next one. Then I do business, right? Because if I don't take care of business, I'm not progressing with my own talents as well as I can't take care of my wife or family. Then after that, I put personal interests, and then I put church, which you may think crazy because God and then church. I think there is a difference. All of these are important. There is one that I want to add, and I'm not sure where to add, which would be somewhere down there, but it would be just taking care of yourself as far as like health, right? Eating and fitness, that sort of thing. So they're all important. It's not to say any of them aren't important, but I think it's important to understand the priority and the structure. So I look at it as that's the castle and the foundation of the castle. And then the moat are all the things to protect that. So that's why I said date night, working out, personal development, doing something with my kids every week, 7 family vacations, right? Don't bring my phone to church. All these things are the moat that protect the castle.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. So one of the things with this show that I kind of mentioned to you prior to this is that I really want to do is really kind of bridge that gap with faith and entrepreneurship, because I feel like there's a lot of very successful people out there that don't really talk much about their beliefs, whether they're scared to or whatever it may be. And I just, for me personally, like that's the foundation of, everything I do in my life. And honestly, all personal development comes from scripture. We both know that. And so with you, what role does your faith play in your business and in your life?
Yeah, it helps give me purpose. It helps give me that vision I talked about. It helps get me through, because of that, get through the tough times. It's helped me understand, our highs are too high, our lows are too low. It's helped me to understand other people in the sense that we all have trials, and understand that we're all hurting a little bit in different ways, and we're all trying to find validation and feel important. So it's helped me to become a better human being and better father, better leader, better person, better husband, better at everything. And so for me, it's really become the core foundation, because if you don't believe in anything, you won't become anything.
Mm,
So you've got to figure out what your beliefs are, regardless of what they are. Because if you don't, it's going to be really hard to have that laser-like focus on what do you really want.
yeah.
And a lot of what you want is going to stem from what your beliefs are, regardless of if you've got a specific church or not, just in general. What are your beliefs? If you don't believe in God, fine. What do you believe in? And how is that going to drive you and give you purpose? Because if you don't believe in anything, you're literally, what's the point of this life? Nothing matters. And if
Right.
nothing matters, you're going to suck at everything.
Yeah.
So it's given me a much greater purpose on, everything mattering.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. It's like the quote, you got to stand for something or you'll fall for nothing. That's basically summing up, what you just said,
Yep.
which is true though, because if you don't have that like kind of sense of belief in the back of your mind at all times, then it's just like, what are you even doing anything for, So no, I love that. I think that's awesome, man. So kind of ending it up here, there's two final questions that I want to ask you. These are two questions that I ask every single guest on here. And they stem from kind of the purpose of this show, which, really, or I guess the goal of this show, which is to, go out there and do two things. Number one, I want to interview what I deem visionaries, people like yourself. You talked a lot about vision, which is awesome, especially being the name of the show is Fuel Your Vision. But then the second thing is what I really hope to do is when people listen to this or they watch this, they can get a sense of what their purpose is on earth. And because I just think that's so big and it's so important. And so the two questions I have for you, number one is, how do you think someone discovers their own purpose?
Yeah. A lot of times it's trial and error. Don't panic if you don't know exactly what it is right now. But I think all of us we all have a general purpose of making the world a better place.
Hmm.
So let's just generalize and make it easier for you. So now you're trying to figure out what can you do to make the world a better place. So this makes it much easier. So you've got to ask yourself, what can you do to make the world a better place? And I would list all of the things that you feel like you can do, and I would focus on a couple. You can't focus on too many. I know that I do public speaking all over the world, and I know that I can make a huge difference, and I know I've made a huge difference. Some people get annoyed by me and don't like me. That's okay. I'm not focused on them. But I know I've helped a ton of people. And so for me, that's one way I know I can. I also know that if I don't take care of my own family, that's where I can have the greatest impact, I believe, on the world, is with my wife and my kids. Because think of how that stems on how they can teach and others can teach, because that's the deeper, right? Who they become as people. So in order to do that, I need to become a better person. So I look at it as also as helping me to become better. And so that goes back to the priorities that I listed, right?
Yeah.
And, giving the purpose. And so for you, figure out what those are. I knew those things, but it took me years and years and years of, I knew I was supposed to be doing what I was supposed to be doing in that moment, but a year later it was something different. And then 2 years
Right.
later, it was something different. I believe what I'm doing now, I'll be doing in 10 years from now, but I don't know. All I know is I think that's the case. And I know I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing right now. I know I feel good. I know I have energy, maintaining his fatigue, building his energy. I know I'm excited. I know I'm progressing because of that excitement. And so I think those are some key questions to ask yourself and challenge yourself is You're trying to figure out your really just meaning and purpose in life, because that's what will give you the greatest satisfaction and happiness.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that answer because it's not like an esoteric answer, trial and error, it's just at the end of the day, it is, and especially if you're young, right? If you're 18, 20, 25, it's like, you don't necessarily have to know what you're supposed to do for the rest of your life. You do something for a couple of years and then and life changes and you transition and you do something different. And so, no, I love that. That's really good. I think it's very helpful too. So cool, man. Last question for you. What does it mean to you to be a visionary?
Oh, I always say good leaders have vision, great leaders give vision. So for me, being a visionary is having the vision so clear that you do create the right environment, that you do take the necessary action to make things happen, that your vision is so big that it isn't affected by your negative mood swings. Now, when I say isn't affected, I just mean that it's not going to succumb to those. Of course, we have those bad days. We're not perfect, or even bad weeks sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, you're still going to win the war, even if you lose the battle. And then I think the great leaders learn how to give the vision, because many of us have that vision, but how many can give it? And when you look at Gandhi or Mother Teresa or whoever your favorite greatest leaders of all time, they didn't just have it. That wasn't enough. They knew how to actually give it to others. They knew how to communicate to others. As Stephen Covey says, his definition of leadership is communicating to one their worth and potential so well they see it in themselves. And so you're able to communicate. Isn't that what a good coach does? Look at the greatest coaches in any sport. They know how to communicate that vision so clearly that they could go to any team, and within a couple of years, they're going to make that team pretty good. So that to me is having a big enough vision that it actually moves you and propels you into action. Because you can tell me how big your vision is. Your vision isn't big enough if it hasn't propelled you into action. You say, yeah, I'm just not good at this one thing. Bull crap. The reason why I say that is because, let me give an example, a really strong one. Really, hopefully I don't offend anybody. But if you're walking out of your house and your house lights on fire and the person you love most in this world is in that house, are you going to go back and save them? 100%. Why? Mm-hmm. The vision is so clear because you love that person so much that it's worth the risk. You're going to do it. Right? Why? Vision's big enough. So if you aren't taking enough action, if you aren't having enough discipline, if you aren't creating the right environment, your vision isn't big enough. Your vision isn't clear enough. You need to get that vision bigger and more clear, because if it's there, I promise you, everything else will fall in place. Everything else will fall in place if the vision is big enough and clear enough. It will.
Amazing. Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great answer. Amazing, amazing. All right, Rob, where can people find you if they want to connect with you? What's the best way for them to come and connect with you more?
You can find me. So I have a podcast, Network Marketing Breakthroughs with Rob Sperry. Social media, you can just look up Rob Sperry on Facebook, on Instagram, The Game of Networking. Look me up there. And those would be the main places. Any one of those places, I'm there. I'm hanging out there, having fun there. So that's cool. Where you can find me.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, good stuff. You guys are so many value bombs today. Rob, I seriously appreciate you, man. This was a lot of fun. Excited to see, where you go with everything you're doing. And I'm sure we'll probably have you on here again in the future.
Hey, honored to be one of your first guests and to be on here, my man, and love the value that you're providing and love that you're not scared to share your beliefs in your journey as well. And so I hope that you can all take one thing from this podcast, just one. Don't get overwhelmed. Take one thing and implement it into your businesses and, more importantly, into your lives.
There you go. You heard it. See you guys.